there's been a lot of stuff on my timeline, at least, sniping between current U.S. men's national team players and former U.S. men's national team players. And I'm used to this in basketball because we've got a big problem where we have this generational feud at all times where the young guys say the old guys couldn't play and they were all playing against plumbers, and the old guys say the young guys are soft and weak and all that stuff. And I'm wondering, has this always been a thing for U.S. soccer, or is this a new development?
I think the word you use is perfect, generational. I think the fact that everyone has an access to an individual that maybe the older generations didn't have, whether it's podcasts, whether it's Instagram, whether it's X, whatever it may be, they have immediate access to have an opinion, or in this case, a docuseries that I find very interesting that as a player, now I'm putting my former player hat on, going into a World Cup, I'm not completely sure I would have done this and given the access going into a World Cup where it is the biggest moment in U.S. men's soccer history, where you're given insight into maybe your vulnerability, the fact that now we have parents coming into this, and I'm glad you brought it up. It even happened in the NBA. Halliburton's father was involved, whether or not it was in the Eastern Conference Final than the NBA Finals. Now we got Christian Pulisic's dad wanting to give his opinion. I don't care what generation you're from. Anytime when you're an adult and you bring your parents into a rock fight or a cat fight or however you want to describe this, that's never going to be in good sight. But the reality is this, it is more a generational thing than a soccer thing. But I find it very intriguing that all of a sudden going into a World Cup where you as a team have been lackluster, if I'm being polite, with your results over the last 24 months, and coming off a World Cup where you already had a family feud with Reyna and Berhalters and their family. I just find this to be really, really immature and missing the boat with timing of everything, especially 9 months before World Cup is in your backyard.
Taylor, am I wrong for saying that this is their identity, it would seem? Because this is a team that for the longest time, you were part of it, you knew the U.S. men's national team soccer identity. We'd try to get you with our athleticism. We'd counterattack, but you could always count on dogs, guys that would not just resign themselves to a talent disparity. And now it's just, let me get my dad involved in this. Let me fight for playing time politically and not on the pitch. And it's very confusing to me that you could always at least count on an American edge. Where are we in the international landscape where the U.S. still thinks that they've arrived to a point that they shouldn't have this edge?
It's amazing, buddy, the way you just put that, because the reality is this, first off, let's make this abundantly clear. The question of Christian Pulisic and his commitment to the national team was completely off base. He's always been committed, and he still will be committed. That's not what we're talking about here. But that's what got Christian Pulisic and his family upset. He could have nipped it in the bud, immediately releasing a statement of why he's not playing in the Gold Cup. And that is what U.S. soccer expected. Then it doesn't happen. You just hit the nail on the head. They created this own identity. It's nobody on the outside's fault that they are reacting and doing their job at the same time of giving their opinion of the situation that's going on. But the reality is this, and you hit the nail on the head again, Mike, is that the identity of this team is no longer, we're going to outwork you, we're going to have a dog in this fight, we're going to roll up our sleeves and do whatever we can to beat you. Now we're questioning whether or not you have that. And in 2014 World Cup, in the United States tied Portugal, should have won. They barely lost to Belgium, even though Tim Howard made 15, 16 saves, most saves ever. The question then, which is about 11 years ago, is how can the United States men compete with the top 10 countries in the world? But over the last 2 years, this generation lost a Copa America, couldn't advance in the group stage in their backyard. They lost to Canada in back-to-back games. They've lost to Panama in 3 straight games and not gotten a result, all in their backyard, all going into the World Cup. And you have the audacity to complain about criticism. Imagine if you were from Argentina or England or Brazil or Germany, the amount of pressure that would be on you That's where you lose me with this, Mike. And so now we're having a conversation. I got to do the Le Batard Show and talking about, are the players committed to going into a World Cup in their backyard in the biggest moment of their lives? And we're talking about a docuseries where the analysts outside are being called evil. Mike, they have completely lost the plot to me, and they've created this on their own. But to think that they're the first generation to ever be criticized, you can miss me with that. That's never been the case. It's just now everybody's got a podcast, everybody's got a voice, so you hear it more. But it's getting to a point where it's ridiculous, and we're really talking about baby games here.
So there are some examples where all this drama, this soap opera element, really just take a chainsaw to a team's chances in the World Cup. We saw it with Spain. We've seen it with France before, where the soap opera gets to be too much. But we've also seen these galvanized host nations. South Korea went on an incredible run with a late managerial change. Russia, there was other stuff going on there, maybe some performance enhancers. Well, not maybe, but they were able to get it together as a host nation. Is the fact that, I know this is a shared World Cup, but is that enough to galvanize this team? Because right now we don't have much proof that they can just rally together under a banner and get all on the same page and put their egos aside. If there's ever an opportunity to do that, it's when you're the host nation.
Yes, the answer to that question is yes. And there is still a part of me that believes that 9-10 months from now, when the United States gets out of their group, they win a knockout round game, they maybe win a second one, all of us are going to look back at this and say, this is what galvanized the group together. There's always that possibility. You can't fret about yesterday and not really worry about tomorrow. You got to take care of today. And the reality is Christian Pulisic's coming off a weekend where he just scored a goal for Milan, and he looks like he's in good form. He's coming off the two best professional seasons of his career. Absolutely, this can galvanize the group. But if you're going to ask me if I'm confident about that, that's where I don't know. It's August 19th, 2025. In this moment, the fact that we're talking about a docuseries going into a World Cup, I don't fully believe in that. However, as a player, I will tell you this, that group can come together in spite of what they believe everyone on the outside is saying and what everyone on the outside is rooting for. And they can believe in that, and they can use that as motivation, and they can absolutely have the World Cup of their dreams. And then after that, look at all of us on the outside and say, I told you so. But that's what they have to do now, because they brought more attention to them for negative reasons than they needed to. Mike, now they've got actually more pressure on them, which is kind of hard to believe, because this is going to be the biggest moment in the men's national team program in the history. And I can't believe we're saying they've got more pressure on them now than they did about 2 months ago.